Alright, the next system is the endocrine system. This Friday you're still having a test on the urinary system, but we are going to start the endocrine system, and the quiz, I'm sorry, it was going to be a quiz, will be on that the following Friday. But endocrine system is a group of ductless, which means without tubes, glands that secrete substances directly into the bloodstream without going through ducts or tubes. And the substances that they secrete are called hormones. There's a number of glands that are part of the endocrine system. If you look at your picture, Transparency 76, some of them are pictured there, but the endocrine system consists of the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenal glands, pancreas, ovaries, testes, thymus, pineal body, and placenta. All of those are different glands of the endocrine system. Now the hormones that they secrete are chemical substances produced and secreted by the endocrine glands, and they're a lot of times called chemical messengers. They are transported through the body, through the bloodstream, and they perform a lot of functions, including stimulating some of the exocrine glands, which are the glands with ducts or tubes, to produce secretions. They might stimulate other endocrine glands. They regulate growth and development. They regulate metabolism. They maintain fluid and chemical balance, and they do control various sex processes. In your textbook on page 217 and 218 there's a table, but you also have it in your notes on the Transparency 77 and 78, which are hormones of the endocrine system and their actions that they perform. The first one we're going to talk about is the pituitary gland. It's also called the master gland of the body because it produces a lot of hormones that affect other glands. It's located at the base of the brain, and it's divided into two sections or lobes, the anterior and the posterior. And each of those lobes secretes certain hormones. Let's look at Transparency Master 77, or the table in the book on page 217, and look specifically first at the anterior lobe and what hormones it secretes. There is ACTH, which is adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, and it stimulates growth and secretion of the cortex of the adrenal gland. There's TSH, which is thyrotropin, and it stimulates growth and secretion of the thyroid gland. GH, which is somatotropin, and it's the growth hormone which stimulates normal body growth. FSH, which is follicle stimulating, which stimulates growth and hormone production in the ovaries of the female and production of sperm in the male. LH, which is luteinizing hormone, and is only in females, and it causes ovulation and secretion of progesterone in females. There's ICSH, which is interstitial cell stimulating, which is on the male, only in males, and it stimulates the testes to secrete testosterone. There's LTH, which is lactogenic or prolactin, which stimulates secretion of milk from the mammary glands. And there's MSH, which is melanocyte stimulating, which stimulates production and disbursement of the melanin in our skin. All of those hormones are produced by the pituitary gland. You see that it affects a very large amount of other glands and functions in the body, because it, along with the posterior lobe, secretes so many hormones. That's why they call it the master gland. There's only two that the posterior lobe secretes. It's also on Transparency Master 77, and it's at the top of the page of Table 7.3 on page 218. In the posterior lobe, the hormones secreted are ADH, or also called vasopressin, which is an antidiuretic. It promotes reabsorption of water in the kidneys and constricts blood vessels. And then oxytocin, or pitocin, which causes contraction of the uterus during childbirth, and it also stimulates milk flow from the breasts. All of those hormones are produced by the pituitary gland. Now, what happens if those don't work correctly? Well, there's a number of diseases that can be that happen because of it, and there's 4 listed here. Acromegaly is an oversecretion of the growth hormone, or somatotropin, in an adult, and it's usually because there's some kind of a tumor, usually benign or non-cancerous, on the pituitary gland. And what happens is the bones of the hands, the feet, the face, they enlarge and almost look grotesque. The skin and the tongue thicken and slurred speech develops. And the person usually will need removal of the tumor or radiation of the tumor, but a lot of times it will reoccur. So this eventually will end up causing cardiovascular and respiratory diseases that shorten life expectancy. There's also giantism, which is an oversecretion of somatotropin before puberty. Now, acromegaly was oversecretion in an adult after you've reached your growth. So it affects hands, face, feet, skin, and tongue. But giantism is before puberty, and it affects the long bones. So there's excessive growth in the long bones, extreme tallness, decreased sexual development, and sometimes the mental development is slowed down or retarded. If it's caused from a tumor of the pituitary, then they try to remove it surgically or with radiation. Diabetes insipidus is not diabetes mellitus, or the one that is caused by lack of insulin or a lot of sugar in the body. But diabetes insipidus is caused by a decreased secretion of the ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. So that prevents water from being reabsorbed in the kidneys. So you're going to have excessive urination, polyuria, excessive thirst, polydipsia, dehydration, weakness, constipation, dry skin, and they can correct that by giving you medication that contains that hormone ADH. And then the last one is dwarfism. This type of dwarfism is not genetic. It's caused by an undersecretion of somatotropin and caused by a tumor. It also could be caused by infection or an injury. Occasionally the dwarfism, its undersecretion of somatotropin, is genetic. It's characterized by small body size, short extremities, lack of sexual development, and if it's diagnosed early enough, then you can have injections of the somatotropic hormone long enough for the long bone growth to develop. It's usually about 5 or 6 years.